consideration as we make defense plans going.
Is it just me, or there's something truly special about black and white? It is funny how the universe works. Destiny put this video in front of you. We don't know exactly why, but everything happens for a reason. For example, the other day while driving my truck, yes, I'm still a truck driver. Anyways, the other day while driving my truck, I came across a photo. It was in black and white. And when I saw it, I thought to myself, the universe is talking to me. Why everything looks better in black and white? I call that destiny. But this is bullshit. Without further ado, let's go. I am using Davinci Resolve, but if you are in Premiere Pro or any other editing software, you're going to be able to follow along. Even if you're a beginner, this is a beginner-friendly tutorial. Breakdown, so no worries. As you can see, this is a 4x3 video. I got an adjustment clip on the top, and basically I crop the adjustment clip so that everything below the adjustment clip is going to look cropped like 4x3. As you can see, you got like crop bars on the side. I was able to do this with the adjustment clip. The adjustment clip controls anything that is below it. Before that, I added a solid color. I just drag and drop it from the effects window. It is just a normal solid color. And then as I play this, some letters start to appear to the beat of the song. And the way I did this is actually very simple. I didn't use Fusion for this. I'm sure in Fusion it's much easier than what I did here. But basically, here is the first letter, then the second, then the third, like that, blah, blah, blah. Just like a kind of like a staircase, and they appear at the beat of the song. That was quite simple, and I'm sure that it is much easier in Fusion. I just didn't have time to learn how to do it in Fusion. This is the song right here. One thing and one tip that a lot of beginners don't actually take advantage of is to be able to stop the song at any given time. The way that I did this is by using an actual wind sound effect. If you actually take a look at this has a transition. And the transition, what it's doing is it is opening the solid color like a barn door would. So all I did is just drag and drop it on the solid color, and it is kind of like a door. So basically I am creating a reveal shot with this. And this is very simple. Anyone can do this. So right after that, I have a wind sound effect in the bottom that is selling the effect of the door opening. And then I place this thing right here, which is a cassette player. I place it on a table. And as you can see in this shot, there is like smoke coming from the bottom. I actually use this smoke machine. I used it to, create kind of like ambience and make it more dramatic. It is actually very cheap. I got it for like $200, and it makes a big difference. I'm going to leave links down below, and if you use those links, you're not going to get charged anything extra. This is actually a very good way to help my channel out. I get like a small percentage of a commission, and it is great. Anyways, so now that we are here, as you can see here, you can see that the tape on the cassette player is red, but then everything else is black and white. The way that I did that is that this one right here is the red tape, and then the bottom one is everything else. So what I did here is I mask the tape right here in the color page. If I go to the color page, you're going to see that right here, I mask the tape out. You just go here to the mask tab, and I use this one right here. You just draw a shape, and then you basically feather it a little bit so that it doesn't look too perfect and it's a little bit feathered, like it's faded on the corners. And then I came over here and I just hit track back and forth. and it did the whole tracking. And if you really take a look at this shot, you can see that I am moving the cassette player and the tracker was able to track it very well. So it was a pretty, even though it looks complicated, it was a pretty easy effect to make. I'm going to tell you something right now. To me, in the editing, the devil is in the details. So it's not really about crazy flashy effects. It's about those subtle details that make you think like, whoa, this looks and feels really good and it kind of feels very cinematic. Pay attention to the details when you're editing. Don't go too crazy, but use very, very subtle effects when you are editing. You know, a lot of beginners, they tend to use like crazy stuff to make the edit more interesting. And that actually gives away that you are still learning. Just be mindful of that so that your videos get a lot better. Then after that, you can see that the letters, they go everywhere. They spread out. The way that I did that is that I put another transition on every text. Right here, it is a push left, a push right, push up and down. So they all go to different directions.
Technological innovation as we make
When I drop the cassette player, I put a bass drop. It sounds more powerful when you use this kind of sound effects. So this is when things get very interesting. So there is like a static sound effect going on when I'm switching the channels.
defense plans going.
That was not recorded in camera. I added some sound effects of electronic radio static noise, and I added 3 layers. If you can see it right here, I got 3 layers of that. I like editing sound in layers because it gives the sound more depth. And always try to add many layers and try to fill it out. Little by little, you're going to get better and better at it. And by the time you know it, your sound is going to be much better. Just force yourself to actually add more sound to your edits. This is a very simple edit, so it doesn't have like a lot of work on sound. If you listen to this,
Plans going.
there is another song in there, and that song I added it so that it sounds like I'm switching radio stations. And to that song I added a distortion effect that makes the song sound like it is coming from the radio. So when you click here, I added a distortion, and the effect that I added to that distortion is lo-fi radio. After that, this is very interesting. If you take a look at this, right? Behind the cassette player, there is the TV. That is what you're seeing right here. This is super interesting because what I had playing on the TV was Everything Always All at Once. I think that's the name of the movie. I put this scene in there because the shot is moving backwards. There is like some sort of zoom effect happening, but it's going back. And then I added to this shot, I added a dynamic zoom that basically push in. It is moving in. It is making the shot zoom in. When you mix the background moving further from the subject, which is the cassette player, and then the camera kind of pushing in and closer to the cassette player, you're creating an effect that is called the Vertigo Effect. So basically, by the camera doing the opposite of the background, you're going to get that effect. Like I said before, the devil is in the details. Right here, the next song starts. Okay, so this is quite interesting right here because the way I achieve this shot is by placing my phone under the grill. There's no way I can place my main camera in there. It just can't happen. So sometimes the cell phone is just the best camera that you can have, especially because it's very thin. This shot right here, I basically use a magic arm clamp, basically. And my cell phone, I bought a cage for it, just like those cages that you put on your camera so that you can attach things to it. So I just bought the same kind of cage for the cell phone so that I can attach it anywhere I want. Right there, you see that I actually sprayed the camera, right? with some cleaning product. For that shot, what I had there is a plexiglass right on top of my cell phone so that I wouldn't mess up my cell phone, obviously. Plexiglass is really cheap and you can achieve these kind of shots very easily. Now, this transition right here that is about to happen, it was very much requested by a lot of you that I explain how I did it. And it is quite simple. If you see right here, there's no transition happening and this is just a regular cut. So how is this happening? Basically, what I did here is that I matched the movement of shot number 1 to shot number 2. So shot number 1 is moving from left to right. Shot number 2 is also moving from left to right. And the shape is kind of similar. So if you cut at the right time, you place your edit at the right time and in the right place, you're going to get something we call a match cut. In the movement from the end of the first clip is matching with the movement of the beginning of the second clip. And that is a match cut. So write it down because match cuts are they are not complicated once you know them, but there is a whole bunch of different kind of match cuts. This happened to be a match cut that happens with movement, but you can create match cuts with shapes, with sound, with so many ways. And it is a very stylish cut and it looks very seamless. This shot is quite interesting. This one, I achieved it with a macro lens. And a lot of people think that macro lenses are for, seeing the eyes of a bee or things like that. But you can get very interesting shots with macro lenses. I also added an effect to it right here. This is a radial blur. If you see this right here, it looks a little bit blurry on the right around this, right? So if I turn it like off and on, you can see on the numbers, you can see where the blur is happening. You see that? Boom, on, off. On, off, right there. So I added that blur so that it looks a little bit more dreamy. Like I said before, the devil is in the details. Those details that a lot of people don't notice. The shot is so short that some people might think that it's an effect from a lens. And one thing I want to point out here is that my style of framing the shots is something that I call center framing. Center framing, and I say it all the time, but center framing is basically where you place or frame your subject in the middle of the frame. I find that for me, it looks very stylish. That way I keep my style similar. So it doesn't matter what kind of video I make, there is something similar that happens all the time, most of the times, not always. And also, the main reason why I use center framing is because it is very easy for your eyes to follow when you always know where the subject is. And usually the subject is in the center. Not always, but most of the times in my videos, the subject is in the center. This other shot was also shot with the macro lens itself. I added a boiling water sound effect to it because I didn't like the way the regular water boiling sounded. Even though I placed the microphone very close to it, I didn't like the sound of it, so I just added a sound effect of water boiling to enhance it. This shot, I did it purposely like this. I framed it this way on purpose so that you can see the coffee filling up the frame until the end. And right at the end, I cut right there so that you can see the next shot. That I call it cutting on action. When, let's say, a subject is coming from left to right, you gotta wait until the subject goes all the way to the right to cut, so that the cut feels a lot more pleasant. Now, if the subject is walking 5 minutes from left to right, there are always exceptions. These are just suggestions to make your edits better, but don't take it like the Bible. And this is where actually tragedy happened. This is sad. At the end of the video, I actually poured coffee on my keyboard. Obviously not on purpose because I'm not rich like that. I have this YouTube channel, but I'm not even making money from it. So why would I try to murder my computer, which is my favorite asset when it comes to creating videos? This was not planned at all. So since it happened, the way it did, my plans were over. So basically, I said, you know what? Let me change the whole idea that I had and let's make it about this ending, this tragic ending. So, on purpose, I changed the song. I had a different song before that gave it a different vibe. But since I knew that I had to change the idea because of what happened, I dropped a song there that is more happy and is talking about, how happy I am and things like that. So that mixed with the ending, it gives a contrast of good and bad, positive and negative that makes it funny at the end. So if I was to have a different beat, it wouldn't really work. You see this a lot in a lot of movies. Probably in Deadpool, you see it a lot where he's like doing all this killing and then he has a very happy song that has nothing to do with killing. So that makes it funny. This is it. I really hope that you got something from this. Anyways, I'll see you in the next one. This was a little bit of work, so please make sure that you support this channel by liking and commenting so that I know that you like this kind of videos. And if you want to follow my journey, you're welcome to subscribe. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one.